Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to episode 5 of Chris's favorite pen, ink, and paper combinations. Back with another one today, and what I'm planning to do is show you all the elements here, and then I'll show you the water test I did, the little tile, and I'm adding something new today. I'm going to actually show a comparison panel somewhere in here so that you can see other inks in case you can't get a hold of this particular one. And if it's popular enough, I'll keep that in these videos too. But we'll look at a writing sample, and we'll also talk about what I like so much about this. And then at the end, I've got a couple off-topic things to talk about. But this pen is probably going to come up a lot. This is the TWSBI Go with a broad nib. I have 2 of them. This is the one that is the clear edition, and then I also have the blue one, which is sapphire, and it's just as great with the broad nib. Okay, and then today's ink is Straits Pen Bougainvillea Purple, and this is an ink from Singapore, but it is carried in the United States at Lemur Ink, and I'll link you to them. That's where I ordered mine. This was in an ink flight originally as a sample, so I had the little ink journal sample, and I just couldn't, that was the one out of this year's 30 Inks 30 Days that I wanted a bottle of. Okay, and then the paper's a little bit confusing because this is the Nebular Note that came in an ink flight. I think it's by Colorverse, but it's definitely the Tomoe River 52 gram. But I get my Tomoe River paper cheaper by ordering it at Goulet Pens loose, not in a notebook. But this is what I have on hand right now. So this is what I was using. I just wanted to be sure you know that that's not typically what I use, but I can't see any difference in the quality of the paper. The thing is that this is about $15, and I've been paying about $8 for 100 sheets loose. So I did want to throw that in there so that you'd know that. So let's look and see. First of all, I want to show you what happened with the bath water test, which is where I write on it, and then for 20 minutes it just sits in a bath test, and then I get it out and let it dry. It's totally typical fountain pen ink, and it washed away completely, and I expected that because, well, for one thing, I've done a full review on this ink, and I will I will link that for you, so in case you hadn't seen it. It's a really beautiful ink, and actually all of theirs were pretty. That was a nice 7 set of inks that we got to sample in the ink flight. But you can see from, this is watercolor paper, and how it moved around, and I kind of expected it was going to do this. My memory served pretty good. Then this is a little splatter test, and it just shows how lovely this ink shades, and it's even got some kind of greenish black sheen on it. It's just really pretty when you do a splatter like this, and I can't get enough of this kind of thing, so I did that one for this video. There's another one somewhere from when I did the full review of the ink. Okay, so now let's see. Let's look at the writing test samples. I already did them because I'm having such a trouble with my lighting in this new area that I film. So this is right out of that Nebula. So it's the 52 GSM Tomoe River Paper, and I just really love how it looks. This is what I use for most of my pen pal letters. Not all of them, but almost all of the ones I write. And I'm hoping you can see I got quite a bit of shading, and that's very typical. I get a lot of variation with this paper. It does take a while to dry. It takes approximately a minute, so blotter paper is good to have on hand. You can tell I smeared it just a little. But let's look at the back of this one. And we just see normal ghosting like you do with Tomoe River paper. Let's see. It's very thin paper, but it holds that ink really well. So while I was at it, I thought, why not show how it did on Tomoe River 68 GSM. So this is a live notes from Pen Gallery, 68 GSM, the same, it's still cream paper. It's not white, they're both cream. And, well, we could compare them. So this is the 52, and this is the 68. And it's just really pretty. I'm losing some of the quality of the visual. What my eye can pick up is not what the camera picks up here, but I was still happy with the shading, although I really feel like the 52-gram Tomoe River paper shows off the shading a lot better, and I like it better for writing. But if you are an artist and you want the heavier paper and you want to be able to really put it on, like paint it on and not have the bleed through, then you're going to be happier with the 68. But I'm happier with the 52 for writing letters. That's what I like. It was about the same drying time. I stopped at 50 seconds, and somewhere between 50 and 60, so it would be about a minute, it would be dry. And I would typically keep blotter paper. This notebook came with a nice line guide with it. So it's really nice, and I'm not trying to knock that notebook, but I just think $15 is way too much to pay for 100 sheets of paper. So I was, I'm happy that I got it in the ink flight, but whew, I won't be reordering that, I don't think. Okay, so this is the back of the 68 GSM, and just normal shadowing. Let's see if we can compare them. You get a little less ghosting with the 68. You can see quite a bit more with the 52. But this is just a super combination. And what I want to say about this too is that I've had it in my TWSBI Eco with a stub, and it's just as stunning. But there's something about the broad nib, so that's probably a personal preference. I like them both, and it was hard for me to decide which one to do for the video since I like them both. But when I looked back over all of my writing samples and everything that I had laying around, since I've been using this ink since it came in heavily, I love it. I honestly can say I prefer the broad nib, so it made the cut for a PIP, I'm calling it, pen ink paper combinations. Thank you, Donna, for that idea. So that's that. Okay, let's see what's next here. I think what's next is I'd like to show you the ink panel comparison, because not all of us probably will be able to get our hands on this one. It's still available right now at Lemur. I'm not trying to discourage you, but there are some really similar ones in this family. So I'll be right back with that. Okay, I think there's like 19 ambulances going by, but we'll see if we can get through this. The ink of the day, Straits Pen Honest Ink Bougainvillea Purple, is right in the middle for us, and it's in really good company. I think you'll see some of the same if you happen to hop over and watch the full review of this ink. You'll see some of the same characters, but then I did not have Kobe number 41 Suma Rikyu Rose. I did not have that one at the time that I did that review, and in fact, just now today I got in a sample vial of it, but this is not my little panel. That just came in the mail because I used a little bit of channel funds to buy 4 ink samples, and I'll be bringing you more about those. But this was the inspiration for that order, and for it like ignited my my inky interest. I mean, I've been a little bit heavily interested more in pens the last few weeks because I had really done it with ink last year. But a new pen pal from Australia, her first initial is T, she sent this in a letter, and I went wild for it, and I think she thought I would like it. On the back there is Rohr & Klinger Solferino, which I'm very familiar with. It's much more magenta, but I think that this one is going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to swatch it out on my own system. But we just talked about Birmingham Southside Market Boysenberry. It was in my rotation for all of this month for February, and it's very similar. There's still something about the Straits Pen Honest Ink Bougainvillea that just, I don't know, there's a brightness or something. There's something special, but I really love the Birmingham as well. And I think anybody who's followed me knows I was crazy, and still am, about Noodler's Purple Mountain Majesties. That's down here in the bottom right. And that's brighter. No, I'm not going to say brighter. It's darker. It's got a deeper So when you're wanting that deeper purple, but you still want to see that it's purple, that's your color. And then if we go in the opposite direction would be the Monteverde Rose Noir. It's just lovely, and it's got such complexity and shading, but it is not as bright. So it's got that dust, not dusty, but kind of a little bit more subdued. But these two are on that same spectrum, I think, just a different intensities. And then I also love the Ink Journal Holiday Blend Sugar Plum, but it does appear pretty dark. There's something about that one that isn't quite where I want it when I'm thinking of this one, like the really brights. I just can't wait to play with this Kobe number 41, and I'm so grateful that I got that like little inspiration from my pen pal, because I saw that and I thought, oh yeah, I'd like to try that. And I hadn't had that thought about an ink sample for months. And then in the process of going to look for this one, I found another pink ink that I hadn't even heard of, didn't know it was on the market even, so I got a sample of that. And then here is Pilot Iroshizuku Yamabudo, because that's kind of a one we're all familiar with, many people are. And so it does turn up a little more pink, a little brighter, a little closer to magenta maybe than today's, the purple Bougainvillea. And then here's a couple nice dark ones that are just, you know, some of my favorite that I've sampled. I don't have bottles of these. Krishna Anakai, that's very pretty. And it's also very dark. I think that I find that dark in a nib, but it's still beautiful. And then Mont Blanc Lavender Purple. I'd forgotten how much I loved that one till I started looking through my journal and ink journal, and I ran across that when I was looking for my old samples of this. So I think it's time for me to talk a little more about what I like about this combination here. I think I've already pretty well covered it, but I love a broad nib for letter writing. It just really shows up, it shows off the ink, and I have large writing. So not everybody's gonna want a broad nib, but with writing like mine that tends to be kind of large, it works out really well. Let's just get today's. Yeah, it just works out really well for me to use a broad or a stub nib. Those are my two favorites for letter writing. And it's not the same if I'm trying to take notes out of a book. I want at least a medium or a fine so that I can fit everything where it needs to be. But for letter writing, I just love this paper, and I love this this nib, and this ink just is an outstanding one that, you know, comes to mind often. And it's like an ink that I've found myself sort of hoarding. Like, that's bad. That's really bad. Might as well buy another bottle rather than hoard it. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. The other thing about it is, let's talk just briefly about price. I guess I already delved into it a little. But for the pen, it's under $20. I believe it's between $18 and $19 at Goulet Pens. And you're getting such a superior writing experience, and it's got this comfortable grip too. I have a review on this one too, so I will go ahead and link to my review of the TWSBI Go. It may be a first impressions, but I usually have a lot to say, and nothing's changed about my enthusiasm about this pen. If anything, it's just gotten better and better. I now have, I think, 5 of them. You know, I'm not even going to make excuses. They're in use more than anything else I have. So, under $20. And then the ink itself was $14 for the 30 ml bottle. Looks like this. Comes in a little box, and it says, ink fades in direct sunlight. Please use this box. So I've been doing that. Okay, and that turns out to be about 47 cents a milliliter, which is, you know, kind of average in my ink collection. Paper. Okay, so paper we kind of already talked about. The 52 GSM Tomoe River Paper I like to buy is from either Jet Pens or Goulet Pens. It's just you know, in a little packet, cellophane, loose sheets for approximately $8 for 100. And you know, that's expensive, but it shows off the ink so well that I super love it, especially for pen friends where we're doing that. We're using maybe 4 or 5 different pens and showing what we have inked up and what it looks like. And I like to write back to people if possible. It's not always possible, but I like to write back to people on a similar paper that they use, because it might not mean a whole lot to them if I'm writing back on CVS caliber and they don't touch this stuff. But you know, that's not something I can always adhere to. It's what I have on hand and all of that. So hopefully this is helpful to you as far as a combination you might want to try. And then I had a couple of sort of off-topic, not totally off-topic, but I wanted to tell you how I was doing with NaNoWriMo, just to like true confessions, and then maybe give an excuse. But I've written 22 letters out of the 29, and today is February 26th, so I'm a little bit behind, and yet 7 more letters to write. And how many days do we have? 26, 27, oh, 4 days. Okay, so I may or may not make it, but this is what I have learned this week. I learned that I have tennis elbow, that this business that I've been complaining about my elbow and my arm hurting so bad, I don't play tennis. And I had no idea that this could be what was wrong, but it is. And I got this little support. It's underneath my shirt because it's so cold. So it's there, but I'm not going to take this off because it's so cold. It's incredible. And there's some specific ways to massage that ligament that I learned about. And so just in a couple of days, I started to feel better. And I started to realize I've been cranky and not doing the things I like to do. And it's been a couple of months. So I don't know why I didn't figure this out sooner. But anyway, this is what's going on with my arm. And I've also got exercises I can do too. And just in like 3 days now, the pain level's gone way down. I can bear weight just a little bit better, but it's still kind of stiff, and this is helping tons though. So there's that. Oh, and the last but not least, I actually had to contact TWSBI yesterday, and I just wanted to tell you about it because I want to encourage you to do that if you have an issue, because they answered right away. This is the TWSBI Eco that I bought I think it was last year. And it had a broad nib, but when I wrote with it, it just didn't seem to be a broad nib. And actually, it didn't look like a broad nib. Let's compare it. It didn't look like a medium nib either. I compared it to my medium nib TWSBIs, and it was just one of these where, okay, so this is the broad Eco that I love. Go. This is in my left hand, the TWSBI Go with the broad nib. And this is the TWSBI Eco that I ordered because I love that color. And I'm going to hold them up, but I don't know whether you'll be able to see, but there's just nowhere near as much tipping material. And I didn't like my result. I felt like I was writing with something. I don't think you're going to be able to really see this. That's a shame, because maybe you will. Maybe it's just my glasses and everything. But, you know, I was really expecting this nice, broad experience. And actually, this was the first TWSBI in a broad nib, so it wasn't a very good impression. So anyway, then I got 2 of these TWSBI Go's. I got one, and it was so phenomenal, I ordered another one, and it was like a whole different experience. So I contacted TWSBI yesterday, and they're going to send me a broad nib to put on here. They did say that the nibs, the tolerances, or I guess they're inspected by YOWO, and it's not really them. So there's going to be some variation. But it was so drastic between the broad on the Go, which I just absolutely love both of them. And I explained that in my email that I actually I'm afraid to order another broad nib TWSBI, because if it's not going to be a broad nib like this one, anyway, it's gonna cost me $8, but I'm gonna, we'll give that a try. And I was willing to try it to see, because I'd really love to get this pen in rotation, but I don't feel like writing with it that much. It's just a slight bump above the medium, and that's not what I want to write letters with. So anyway, I just thought, for what that's worth, that was my experience. Quick response, and it's not totally free, but it's going to be just $8. That's not the price I would have to pay double that for a replacement nib, I think. So I thought that was fair. And we'll see how it goes and I'll update you. How's that sound? Okay, so what did you think of this combination? I really like it, and I find myself reaching for whatever I have in this pen. So you'll be seeing this pen some more. But this just had nice shading, and it's just a bright, cheerful color. You know, I love it. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I will be back soon with what I'm going to ink up for March. So I'll see you then. Bye for now.